We're just going to go ahead and get started. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful day. They are starting the live stream right now for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. It's going to be hosted on Cohh's channel, so we're just going to go ahead and tune in here. I was also playing EverQuest 2 in the background. I'll talk about that later. But let's go ahead and go into monitor mode, and we'll listen to what they have to say.
Crowdfunding was really getting going too. This game really was enabled at the beginning through the passion and the generosity of the gaming community. Got a great deal of money in via crowdfunding to get started. But what we're really here to talk about today is the fact that we've brought in some new funding. Through investors, we've brought in $2.4 million of new funding.
That's on top of what you already had.
I'm sorry?
That's on top of what you already had.
Yeah, good point, Cohh. We had our crowdfunding.
Okay, let's go into monitor.
Some equity funding already, and we brought in an additional $2.4 million in equity funding recently, and that puts us over. Building a game is a big, expensive endeavor, and an MMO is really ambitious and harder.
Okay, hopefully we can all see that.
This money is really going to help us accelerate development.
Turn it up.
Awesome. Well, with the with the way that things are going,
we should be good.
And how much can you kind of get
What's
into
up, Pico?
As kind of who are the investors? Are these friends? Are these business people? Like how did that whole process work, and how's that looking?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we announced, we did see in social media a few people were worried. A big company's come in. They're going to make them change the vision for the game. They're going to make them change the design. They're going to force us to create a cash shop and switch the game to pay to win. And I'm here to tell you none of that is happening. We have, along the way, had multiple offers to, quote unquote, sell out the vision. And that's something that very stubbornly and very proudly we haven't done and we're not going to do. The investment came from very like-minded individuals this time who believe in the vision, who have a tremendous amount of exposure to what goes on behind the scenes, what our plans are, our current status. And these are people who really believe in what we're doing, where we are, the progress we've made, and where we're going in the future. So these are individual investors. Very important to note, accredited investors. That's kind of a fancy finance term, but we don't want to take money from, we don't want to take Granny Smith's retirement money. We don't want to take money from people who can't afford to lose it. So we only take investment funds from what's called an accredited investor. And there are certain rules and regulations and what makes up an accredited investor. But basically, it's a savvy person who has a certain amount of assets or a certain level of income who can basically afford to lose the money. So we're very particular about that as well. But again, savvy individuals who believe in the mission, who have turned the company inside out and checked out our financials and our progress behind the scenes, and really believe in where we are, what we're doing, and where we're going.
Awesome.
That's perfect.
Very cool. So how does there's been a lot of talk, especially in the producers letter and everything, about kind of the funding series and all of the different kinds.
If it was a company, that would have been pretty bad.
That may not normally
or look pretty
up
bad at least
to some people, but in a situation like this with Pantheon, it's the kind of situation where you guys are a little bit more forward facing than most. You know, you're a crowd-funded game and you're very transparent with the community. So how does that whole system work?
Yeah. Hopefully this doesn't bore the gamers out there too much, this finance stuff, but it is kind of important to understand when these companies announce Series B funding, Series A1 funding, equity funding, debt funding, all of these terms get thrown around, and you know, it might be puzzling sometimes, but a series of funding is
what's up, Sage?
A group of investors that invest at the same time under similar terms. So they pay the same price, they get the same amount of stock, they get the same deal terms. So we've had Series A, Series A1, Series A2, and now this is Series A3. So A3 is a group of people who paid the same price under the same terms. And pleased to say that with this Series A3, it's our last round of Series A.
That background is beautiful.
We're moving on to Series B. That's an important step in the growth of a company. With it comes a higher price for the stock and probably, hopefully, larger amounts in the near future. So we're working hard on that already.
Very cool. So I think a big question that as we kind of get back to more of the game itself, what are you doing with all this money?
Yeah, you get all sorts of speculation on the internet. The internet's an interesting place to watch people analyze how game companies
No, it's
use
Unity.
their money.
They run on Unity,
The
engine.
I will tell you that this company started in a garage with very passionate, like-minded individuals who agreed to and believe very strongly in a vision, the vision that is Pantheon, a social, challenging game that captures the essence of what made MMOs so magical in a modern package with some innovation and some new features. So, immersion, discovery, character development, team building, interdependence, social experiences. That's what Pantheon's about. And people believed in that so strongly. They came together with such passion that there's really been a lot of entrepreneurial sacrifice along the way, to be honest. Nobody on the team has made a ton of money doing this. In the beginning, a lot of people were taking no compensation. We had to build up systems. You have to buy software licenses. But the most important asset to doing something like this is the people. The more money we have, the more people we can hire, the faster we can build the game. I'm pleased to say that, and Chris Perkins will talk about this more, but technology-wise, game code-wise, we've come to a very important point where the game building tools are mostly finished. They still need some polish, they still need some features, but we've got these tools ready to build the game efficiently and in a data-centric, dynamic way. And that's going to allow us to, from here, accelerate, move a lot faster, use our resources better, and fill the world with content. And so
I don't know how much faster those tools are going to allow them to work, but they've still got like quite a bit of ways to go as far as that alpha tracker goes. But I do remember reading about that in the beginning they did actually work for like no pay kind of thing.
You will have seen that.
So that part I do remember reading about.
People, they've all been artists, concept artists, 3D artists, animators, people who bring the world to life, fill it with content. Where does the money go? It goes to hiring people. Plain and simple, the people who build the game and fill the world with content.
As somebody who really wants this game yesterday, that's great to hear, because the more of that, the better. So
we are accelerating. I couldn't be happier about
that's
that.
That's very good to hear.
The investment helps.
Excellent. Just out of curiosity, how many people do you have working under you right now?
There are 35 people on staff. Not everybody's full-time. So if you put that into an equivalent of full-time, it would be like 24 full-timers, but 35 people on staff.
I think for their programming team, it's like 15 people.
A lot of the part-timers work more than
something like that,
because they love it or because they're committed. The amount of effort this team puts in is just amazing. And, you know, they do it because of the game. But another thing that I really like that I've seen develop at this company is the corporate culture and the sense of teamwork and camaraderie. I love how our team supports each other and, you know, really works hard for each other. Just positive, and the togetherness and the belief and the camaraderie is absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Very good to hear. Speaking of camaraderie in your new team, we recently learned that you had some pretty big pickups to your team. Some new faces have joined you. Could we get some information on that? What are they working on? What are they bringing to the team?
Oh yeah, I forgot that guy's name.
Sure thing. CP, you want to talk to that?
Absolutely, yeah.
He's from EverQuest.
We've been able to make some really significant hires, as CR was saying earlier, you know, particularly in the art department. So we've brought on 2 additional 3D artists, 3D environment artists and world builders. We've brought on an animator and a rigger, an additional animator who is also a phenomenal rigger. We've brought on a 3D character artist and a new concept artist. And then in addition to those 2 things, we announced on our last stream that a man named Steve Clover approached us recently with an interest in joining the Pantheon team. If you don't know Steve was the co-creator of EverQuest alongside Brad McQuaid, and he's a phenomenal programmer, brings obviously many years of experience, and just a real passion for these kinds of games, and not just MMOs in general, but the kind of game we're making. We kind of see ourselves as torchbearers in a way of a gaming experience that is being lost more and more as time goes on, as video games become more and more commercialized. That experience of immersive adventure, that idea that a game would really put emphasis on player sovereignty, you know, your ability to make decisions and not follow a predetermined path, even down to the world building of the game, where, you know, we're making an interesting world to inhabit, not a bunch of mini-map flashing lights to follow around. Character development being emphasized, as CR said earlier, that team building through shared experience. This is the kind of game that we're making, and so with Steve and really as a team, I think that's a lot of what drew his interest, and he's been, like the other hires we've made recently, just an incredible addition to the team.
Excellent, awesome. So in terms of like the kind of major game developments and things that have been progressing along, like, has that been all happening in parallel, in conjunction? Is the new team being brought into those processes as they happen? How is all of that working out with you guys?
Sure, there's a lot of things happening in parallel at all times with game development, and typically when you're in a development phase, you have, you know, however many things spooled up and kind of ready to go for somebody to run with them, either when an existing resource frees up and is able to move on to that, or in our case, having just recently hired several new people, we've had several things spooled up for those individuals to become immediately productive on, and they've done a phenomenal job. Steve's contributions, you know, he's been able to finish our banking system. We've been able to get our death system, which is pretty complex and pretty in-depth. He's just putting the finishing touches on that, including our newly announced near-death mechanic.
That death system was pretty controversial with some people.
Concept artists are kind of the unsung heroes of game development. The ability.
People were, I remember I was reading through the MMORPG forums, and a lot of people didn't like the fact that you could lose levels on death. Although I don't think it'd be that bad. Like, you're not going to probably, like, especially like at the lower levels, you're probably not going to lose a full-on level right away at level 15 if you die.
And the animation side through concept art has been really great to see. We're just about to reach the end of our human capital city residential development for our residential buildings and those kits, which is going to cover all of our, you know, human presence game wide. We've had lots of improvement to our player character rig to support some of the additional animation work that we want to do.
Seeing some of that up there through the footage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could go on, and you know, all of this is in tandem with, you know, all the other development work that's still happening. Major progress on world building, major progress on game systems like the gathering system. I could go on and on, but it's a huge
All right, Chris,
injection of activity.
You've got 2 hours. Go ahead. Beginning to end, everything.
Yeah.
That is
circle back on that list here in a little bit.
A little bit, right? Well, that's awesome to hear. So, of course, what you know, we've gotten a peek behind the curtain with how the company is doing with the funding. You're giving us some great insight in how everything else is working in terms of the production, the team, and everything. What right now is the state of this game, and what are your highlights as opposed to what you think people should focus on, especially those that are very active in the community?
I think
before he talks, I feel like the perception system is going to be one of the biggest parts, or one of the hardest parts.
The developments.
It feels like there's so much that goes into it.
Systems, the class designs, the abilities that we've been able to bring online, the kind of synergies we're starting to create between the classes, the added depth to the combat system through some of the resource kind of tweaks that we've made. The NPC abilities that exist. I am most excited about our testers getting back in and getting their hands on these classes and experiencing the combat in the game. And I would add to that as a close second the way that the world building has evolved. And in our most recent stream, we showed off a lot of that world building progress, what that means for adventuring. For those of you that don't know, one of our major differentiators for Pantheon is a full free form climbing system. So you know, everything in the game is climbable, from mountains to structures to you know, ruins, trees, things like that. That's just part of really nailing that immersiveness to the world, and that trying to emphasize the exploration in the game. And the way that the topology of the game world and the zone design and the level design has evolved over the last few months is going to create really just an unprecedented experience of what we're wanting to create in the world traversal for Pantheon. How much there is to explore, how much there is to see and find. So that would be a very close second for me. We are moving as quickly as we can to that next pre-alpha testing date. We are just as, if not more, excited to have our VIPs and our testers back in there to play this game, to get their hands on it, to start giving us that all important feedback. And so we are barreling down that track, trying to get there as fast as we can.
And just to be a little bit clear, we've talked about this in previous streams that we've done together, and I think it's kind of important to go over again. What exactly is the pre-alpha?
So
like
a
demo,
pre-alpha
more than likely
for us is when we're able to get as many of our current VIP testers in to not only stress test our network systems, which is going to be extremely important now because we are just about to bring them in for the first time to what we're calling Vinyl, which is our own in-house networking library that we're incredibly excited about, and we need to put it through its paces. But that's a big part of it, is the kind of stress testing that we can do. But it's an opportunity to see some of these gameplay systems in a very fledgling state. You know, the game is not feature complete just yet, but we are, as we approach that point, as we're looking towards a full alpha testing phase, these pre-alpha phases are a chance for our VIPs to get super up close and personal with in-progress system development. We have some really robust feedback systems where we're able to hear directly from our testers. And, you know, I'm sure many of them could speak to the fact that we listen very carefully to that feedback. We have, you know, several of the tweaks that we've made have actually come directly from interacting with the community on specific points and really dialing in certain things. So it's a very involved, you know, in the midst of pre-alpha tests, it's a very involved process where the community is able to get their hands on the game, tell us what they're thinking, what they're feeling, a chance for us to, you know, fix things and polish things, but also to really hear from the people who are going to be playing the game, whether it's resonating.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I know that obviously you can't just
It'll be
let everyone play who
subscription.
wants to right
Happy.
now. So how does that work? How does you guys have like a tiered system with the pledges and things like that? What's the nitty gritty with all that currently?
Yeah, CR, do you want to take the new pledge package?
Sure. Yeah, we have a new pledge package called Scion of the Black Rose. And this is a package that it doesn't include some of the typical VIP benefits, but what it does do is it gets you into pre-alpha testing, which will have several more pre-alpha tests. And interestingly enough, while I'm CEO, I also have a background in coding. So I'm the person who actually does the coding for the pledge system. And we put it together, and we added the pledge, and we put it up a little bit early just to make sure it was working. And very quickly, people discovered the pledge and jumped on top of it and started upgrading to that pledge, or just making that pledge as their first pledge. So we've been very excited to see the reaction. It gets you into pre-alpha, but it's a little bit less expensive than the full VIP pledge, and it's been a hit.
So on that note, talking about the pre-alpha access and things like that, how many?
Actually surprising. That's the $750 one that he's talking about. I wasn't expecting to see that many pledges or hear about that many for that one yet.
And into next year, we're promoting the newsletter signups to try and keep people as informed as they can. That's going to include our Road to Alpha update that we do each month. We're trying to keep a really clear view on what aspects of the game's development need to be completed for us to reach that alpha milestone, and we're trying to keep that updated consistently from month to month. So the newsletter is a great place to keep track of our progress on that front. Yeah.
Fantastic. And by the way, just throwing this out there to announce in chat, I normally do this at the beginning when people ask, because of course, as you guys know, normally I just play games. But Pantheon is a little bit different for me because as a player of more social MMOs and having grown up in them, I'm very passionate about this project. I can't wait to play it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully giving a long time of my life to playing it. That being said, my normal thing is saying that no, this is none of these streams I've ever done with Visionary Realms has been sponsored. I'm just a fan that loves this project and wants to see it succeed. However, as I said in chat a little bit, I have recently transitioned to a bit more than a fan. I guess technically at this point I would be considered an investor. So no, I did not give the 2.4 mil. That's lots of people did that. That being said, a small part of that, I am now an investor in Pantheon. I do want to see it succeed, and no, they are not paying me for this. I'm paying them. I guess how that would work. But yeah, so anyway, that's where I am now.
It makes perfect sense.
I'm very happy to be here. As we've seen today, there's definitely a huge amount of passion in this project. It is by no means a normal thing. This is not something you really compare to anything else out there. So I think I speak for a lot of us when I say we can't wait to see this come out. And basically, it's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway,
Cohh, thank you for making that investment.
That's a good area to pause. Yeah, I completely believe that, because like I said in the video that I made, it's more than likely there's going to be quite a few wealthy people that are itching for that old school experience. So just like Cohh, there's probably quite a few people, maybe in his position too, that also donated to that investment.
The game is
and would do so in the future.
Really valuable for us, and just the validation of somebody like you joining in this capacity is such a big deal for us. And the team just freaked out when we announced it. They couldn't have been happier. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you guys. I'm beyond excited to play this. I am ready to, as the kids say, no life the hell out of this game. So I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty pumped. All right, guys. So that is a lot of information. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know that this is you guys don't normally do these streams, so we kind of had to pack them in there, at least on my channel, I should say. You guys have your own channel and are doing stuff all the time on it. But that being said, we have like one more bigger thing that I'll be talking about at the end, or kind of mini announcing. But before that, we've got some questions. So one of the great things about when these guys come on is a lot of times they will answer questions from you guys. So these are questions that are not only from our chat today, but we are also taking questions from the Pantheon community as a whole. The awesome Benjamin Dean, who, if you're a VIP, you probably know of extensively, has been collecting questions and kind of filtering them through the back end. So there's a good chance you may hear a question that you didn't necessarily see in chat, but just know this comes from people from the Pantheon community. So for instance, here's one from Dundor. How fast do you guys anticipate expanding your team? And anyone can jump in.
As quickly as the money allows.
That's fair.
We're working hard on additional investment. We may have a few more people come on board in the near future, but this is all throttled by available resources. We run a tight ship. We are very serious about budgeting. We're very serious about having a runway, making sure this thing doesn't go flying off the cliff and go up in smoke. Let's face it, a lot of gaming startups get a little bit too far over their skis and disappear. And we're not going anywhere. So we watch the money very closely. We budget carefully. CP and everybody on the team is always asking me for new hires. We think that through carefully and just make sure that it's all sustainable and we can keep it going and stay accelerating at the right speed, but not go off the cliff. It's all a balancing act. But pledge more. If you're an accredited investor, invest more, and the more money comes in, the faster we can go.
Sounds good.
I'll say too, we do have our hires prioritized and listed out, so we know exactly who we're going after next as soon as the funds are available to do so. So, very excited to add more.
Great. A question from Rich Saw, and some of these questions, by the way, are going to be questions that are real quick and easy to answer, but there's a lot of,
Yeah, around 2020, I think it was in October or somewhere around that range, they essentially pulled like a little bit of a new world where they it was posted on the week. I read it on the wiki, but I put it in the last video as well. They took down some of their systems, like they made major changes to their coding and stripped out a crap ton of the systems that were already in place. So all the ones that they were working on for like those 6 years, a lot of those are getting redone right now. So
Subscription.
It's basically like they've been developing since 2020 at the moment.
Very likely how this will be monetized. We aren't going to be doing anything that wrecks the community. We're not doing free to play. We're not doing pay to win. We're not doing free to play. The most likely place we go is a subscription model. I don't know if we've announced that formally, but it just, it kind of feels like a foregone conclusion. And if that's what you're concluding, you're probably going to be right.
I really like hearing the no pay to win. That's especially these days, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal.
It is a very big deal.
Yes. Isvrada, what is your opinion the hardest thing to achieve in MMO development if your studio does not have enough funding support? That's a good question.
It's got to be art. MMOs are the largest games there are, and the more you want to push the size of your game, the world, the more art you're going to need. Now, that being said, there are a lot of really good tricks. There are a lot of really good just protocol for how to create a very art-rich and varied world that also involves some reutilization of certain assets, so that you can populate more of the world with less art. So there's a lot of strategy there, but it's definitely when you're going for a large world and you're wanting not just a cold procedurally generated world, art is definitely the more challenging thing.
For sure. Another question from a community member, Telepath. If players are able to find unique class builds that are effective at soloing, will those classes get nerfed or will they be left alone to reward the creativity? Ooh,
God, that's one thing I hope they don't do is start trying to balance all the
They're trying to
classes
put you guys into. They're trying to get some quotes
be
out
at
of
the
you right
same
now
level.
for when they find those. But you said
That's one of the things that ruined WoW. If I remember right, that's one of the things that people ended up not
No.
liking.
Well, I mean, it's up to
Every
you. but
class
of
felt
course,
the same.
The more you can give, the better.
Yeah, I don't have any problem answering this question because the reality is we're not averse to soloing. We don't snub our noses at players who are able to figure out ways to solo effectively. The more creative and kind of emergent those strategies are, the better. Where we will step in is more when it comes to an actual game breaking type of behavior or something that's causing destructive or detrimental effects on the player base. But if it's just a player utilizing their class skills, getting powerful enough, finding something really cool, and then working out a creative way to make it happen, then that's great.
That's good to hear. That's very good to hear.
Totally agree.
Awesome. Excellent. Athen, and this goes back to something that was mentioned a little bit earlier. If you're just tuning in, Vinyl is the proper term network architecture you guys are using right now. What's the exact terminology for Vinyl?
Vinyl is it's technically a networking library. Sometimes it's called a networking stack, and it's the underlying code that sends the messaging back and forth between the server and the client. Very important, MMOs, you have thousands upon thousands of people in the same space, and they're all sending these networking messages, and those networking messages need to be sent efficiently, they need to be prioritized, and shuffled and sent to the right places. And Unity, Unreal, no gaming kit out there, no platform out there has a networking library or networking stack that's sufficient for the demands of an MMO. It's actually, making an MMO run smoothly is a huge, difficult software challenge. And Kyle Olson, our lead programmer, has done a spectacular job of building one from scratch. It's kind of a specialty of his. And, we've done something that people in the industry have actually taken notice of. It's so performant, it's so flexible that it's going to not only allow us to have, a performant game, but maybe even introduce some interesting features that might not have been possible with the previous networking stack or networking library that we had. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. That question was from Athen, who wanted to know not only what it was, which is what you answered, but also was wondering, what is the current status of Vinyl? Is it ready to go, or are you guys still developing it? How is that working?
Yeah, I'll let CP expound on this, but basically it is integrated in the main project. The game is running on Vinyl right now. There are some glitches that we're working out, which is something to be expected when you make a change this massive, but it's in there and running. And that was a big milestone for us. I kind of see it as our really our last major technical milestone. And now the attitude of the company, we still have things to clean up, we have features to add, but we're really shifting towards content production now.
I think that's what a lot of us really want to hear. That's great. That's great. Oh, here's a great one. Let me first say this is from our friend Thunder Giggles. Excellent. Love the name. Is there any fear that as they work on this game and doing it so openly, that someone else could come up with a much larger budget, swoop in and steal the thunder of some of these newer and more unique gameplay features, and even I'll add onto that, and even the style of the game?
Very unlikely, unless the only ones that really are out there is like Monsters and Magic, Embers and Drift, that are trying to do this exact thing.
We welcome
other ones like Ashes are a little bit different.
And games to this space. There's nothing I'd rather have than another player in this space building a great MMO. There's lots of room for great MMOs. They're really ambitious, challenging projects.
But that doesn't mean that they're not going to like have competition, because like even Riot's MMO, all those MMOs are going to draw people
There's
to
nothing
them.
I'd like
But
more than to
when
have
it
more
comes to like what
MMOs.
Pantheon's actually
I don't
trying to do,
it's a
there's not that
great
many
genre
games
of
trying to do the
game,
same.
And I hope we inspire somebody to make one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think we're happy to be, inspiration. I've already seen little glimpses and whispers, and some other games in development of things where you kind of take a look and you kind of double take and say that that seems similar to what we're doing or what we thought about doing. And the reality is, a lot of things like this are predicated on design ideas that have come before. Even all the way back to a game like EverQuest, there was a lot of inspiration that came from games prior to that. And so I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with inspiring ideas and designs and people taking those cues and whatever. But it's definitely something that has crossed my mind, and part of the reason why I really want us to get this done, get it out the door.
Excellent. Kitamar 2. Oh, okay. This is actually a question to me, and you know what? I'm gonna take this opportunity to say this whole stream has been awesome and this information is great. But there's been one thing that I've been hanging on to, wanting to say this entire time. And I know for a lot of you, this is one of the biggest things that you are waiting for from me and from this channel. So get this. The question: as an investor, does Cohh get to stream the pre-alpha? This September, I will be able to play Pantheon for you for the first time on stream. I am incredibly excited. We have been following this project for years, and in September, I am going to be playing this game on this stream, so we can all together not only see the state of it, but where it's going. I'm hoping at that time, I'm gonna spring this on Ben right now.
Oh, I thought he was asking a question, so it's a definitive thing. Oh, that's intriguing.
Play like just I am so excited. It's been a hugely long time coming. There have been so many people that are like, "Oh, Pantheon's been in development for years. Oh, nothing's happening." Well, we're playing it in 2 months, so there, it's happening. Things are happening. So it's very exciting. Now, of course, I do want to preface, this is all, of course, bearing that everything goes as planned. September is still a couple months away. Things can go wrong. But the hope is that September is where we're going to be playing this. So hope to see you guys then. And to answer your question, yes, we'll be streaming it in September. So hopefully see you guys then. Now,
nice.
Back to the Q&A. Balthazar 12. Can we get a way? Oh, this is kind of a technical thing, but I mean, this is a good question. Can we get a way to compare pledge packages versus another? I'm assuming he means pledge packages like.
There's already kind of a way to do that. You just look at the homepage of the pledge, or you look at the page.
Like, this is kind of a weird question. I'm assuming he means on the website, like maybe like a grid or something.
Actually,
myself.
I think there was actually a grid made by the community. On
the website has the pledges listed, and similar pledges are listed side by side, and like the lower level pledges show what you don't get or what you get by upgrading to the next level pledge.
Okay.
It's not a grid per se, but it's laid out pretty well. And if something's unclear, then you can just email support, and they will talk you through it.
Perfect. But all that information is available on the site.
It is.
Perfect. All right. Scratch Glasses is wondering if you have any intern positions available.
We get that question a lot. We don't right now. It's something, oh God, am I going to regret saying this? Something we maybe hope to do next summer. But the bar will be pretty high.
Understandably, there are a lot of and the interesting thing about this game is I feel like you definitely have an audience that you're not only getting newer people, but I also feel like you have a lot of older people that are probably very interested in this project, which means they have much broader skill sets than may normally be attracted to this kind of thing. So it's only going to make things more difficult for you. Wish you well on that one. So we have another great question from Uriel OWA, longtime member of our community. Will the game be more fast-paced like modern MMOs with fast leveling progress and such, or will it be slow-paced like older style games like WoW and the vanilla old times and stuff like that? Or is it going to be somewhere in between? What's your vision for the final gameplay loop of this?
I think it's safe to say, number one, it will not, I can say confidently, it will not be fast paced like modern MMOs. Where I would put it is more in a slow to a medium paced, and that being kind of determined by any of the number of different parameters that could be going on at any given time within the game. But we are definitely intentionally going for a more strategic and tactical approach to combat. And so on the combat side of things, you are going to see more of a slower or a medium paced game approach, approaching more of a medium paced as you get much more familiar with your class, with the synergies with other classes, with the different traits and dispositions, the NPC that you'll be facing. Those that speed may pick up as you get more familiar with those things. But then as far as progression
so,
as
Charlie.
well,
They might have.
We are not wanting it to take somebody 2 years or a year or whatever to reach max level, but we do want it to be more of a journey. And a lot of that journey, when you think of the time investment, is that Pantheon is a very vertical and horizontal focused progression game. And so it's not only getting to max level, and once I get max level, I can do anything I want, I can go anywhere I want, start gearing up. There's a lot of horizontal gameplay aspects to the game as well. The climbing system, for example, swimming and all the systems that go along with swimming, and how many aspects and parts of the game that you won't be able to access without proper climbing and swimming skill and the gear and the abilities that come with those. The perception system and any kind of depth that you want to be able to step into with that system, and the way that it will also affect gameplay is another horizontal aspect of the game. The crafting, the gathering system, and the different kind of dependencies that adventuring will have on what that sphere can provide. There is a lot of horizontal aspects of the game as well, and we said this in the last stream. Like, you can I think you said no life Cohh. I've heard it more recently as refusing to touch grass. However like deeply you want to play and focus on the game, you can barrel your way to level 50. But if you don't have the right skills, if you don't have the right horizontal aspects to go along with your character's development, then there's a huge amount of the game that you're not going to be able to access yet because you haven't spent time doing that. Acclimating to different climates is another example. Having the right kind of artifacts or abilities that you found to help you with different fractures you may come across. We are if you haven't been following our development, if you're not as familiar with the nuances of the design sense, there's a lot of that Metroidvania style thinking that we're imbuing into Pantheon. This idea that even though you can see something at a low level or even see something at a high level, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be able to access it yet, because there are abilities and items and skills and dependency on other classes in some cases that are necessary to make it across that chasm, or climb that seemingly unscalable wall, or get down deep enough into this body of water to actually discover this hidden entrance. There are things that we don't expect players to even find or have any concept or clue of for months and months after the game launches, if not longer. Because
I'm sorry, is that a challenge?
I'm throwing it down as a challenge right now. Absolutely.
Okay. Making sure I heard that right. Okay.
Yeah. So, it is a slow-paced game by right of wanting to create a more strategic and tactical.
That actually gave me a thought, Genghis. I don't know if you guys have seen those types of MMOs where when you start off, it actually gives you the experience of a high-level character. Like, you go into those instance-based or scenario-based experiences, and you can use all your different types of skills. That might help if they did something like that, maybe.
Because unfortunately, the reality is that this is an issue in a lot of games these days.
Just to give you a
How
little bit of a
active
taste.
will the developers be in the game to cut down on bannable offenses? And will this be like a reporting ticket submission basis? Is there going to be an active, we're going after this type of stuff? Like how is VR planning on addressing this type of behavior in the game?
This one will be important.
We take it very seriously. These kinds of things, we've seen it, enough where games will launch and have, all the promise in the world, and then a couple of, dupe bugs or things that come in and wreck the economy and whatnot, and the pace at which the developer will respond to those things ends up creating, in some cases, irreversible damage to the game, to the community.
We know all about that.
So we take it very, very, very seriously, and we'll be talking a little bit more down the line about some of the specifics behind how those protocols will actually work. But expect us to be very involved. We have worked very hard and have invested our heart and soul into this, and we will do everything in our power to protect it.
Yeah, and Ben actually. Go ahead.
As part of that effort, we've actually defined a new role at the company, and actually appointed somebody already. Haven't announced that person yet, but we've defined the role of conduct and security manager, and that person's main role will be dealing with just such things.
Very cool.
That's good.
That's
good.
Definitely good news for sure. Another question, Tozazu. When will they engage their core to really test and balance the game to ensure that, one, it's a fun game to play, and two, it's going to keep people engaged and interested long term?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing that now, and that will ramp up and continue to be our focus in alpha as well. It's an internal mantra, and it's something that we communicate consistently to our current active testing community, which is the game has to be fun. No combination of ideas and designs necessitate a fun experience. It has to be played, and then we're paying very close attention to how is the game resonating? Is it sticky? Is it something that you think about once you log off and you want to get back in? If it's something you can play and then walk away from and not think about again, then something is wrong. The good news is that our feedback so far is quite the opposite, and that there is a deep fun factor and a deep kind of clinginess that the game has. But we only want to drive that deeper, and we know that there's still so much more that will be coming into that to only increase that feeling. But as we get into alpha and as we grow from the current few thousand testers that we have available now for testing into 10K plus and beyond, once we get into alpha, then that's where we really will be doing kind of that final in the lead up to beta. That's where we really want to make sure that the game as a whole, game wide, all the different game systems and the experiences of many different types of players within that game are all adding up to what we're looking for, which is a fun game, a performant game, and something that players just can't get enough of. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to our current QA team. Small as it is, it's really well run, and they do a great job of staying on top of balance and communicating in a disciplined manner, and making sure that we're always driving towards the kind of balance that will make it fun and make it long-lasting fun. It's kind of an unsung department and position that really deserves a lot of appreciation and kudos. So shout out to QA.
You're here. Very cool. So real quick, we've got another couple questions, but I'm going to slide one in here from myself, if you guys don't mind. And this is one of those questions where it's like, I know the answer to this question exists, but I don't know how much is public. So feel free to just be like, we'll talk about that later. But one thing that I know, going back to that no life thing, is that I know how Chris was just talking about getting to max level quickly. And I am the type of gamer that does like to get to max level quickly. In fact, I used to do like world first leveling, where I would get a team together and we would just play EverQuest 2 or Warhammer and try to be like the first of our class to the max level. So one thing I'm curious about is how much are you guys
I
thinking?
feel like this would be
about
one of
that
the games where
early
that'd be
when somebody
not the
has
best idea.
the two kind of big halves
They're
of an
planning
MMO
to
are
do
like
what
the
I think
level up
they are.
process and then the post level up process. So how much of a focus is the post level up process going to be in this game? Is this going to be the kind of thing where there's going to be like the world opens up when you get max level, or is it going to be the kind of thing where you're focused more on having like multiple characters and things of that nature leveling up, and then like how are you guys feeling about the end game experience in Pantheon? And if this is the kind of thing where you're like, we'll talk about that later, that's fine.
Well, there is going to be a lot more to talk about on that later, but I can say a few things now. Some of it would be piggybacking on what I've said earlier, which is there is such a horizontal breadth to the game that certainly somebody that makes it to max level quickly will still have quite a bit of work to do and investment to make in their character to fully flesh those things out. This hasn't even begun, talking about the mastery system yet, and some of the other aspects of the game that are not going to be possible to complete before max level either.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, that's
a big part of it. The other piece has a lot to do with how we plan to handle our content consumption. Typically in MMOs, you get to max level and you begin kind of the raiding scene, and
we know there's raids. The raids we've seen look awesome so far.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And kind of a spectrum of raid sizes as well that we want to capture. We want to have some smaller raids. We want to have some larger raids. We want to have some world kind of raid event type things.
Oh, cool.
The lore of the game is so ripe for dynamic events like that, and it's something I'm personally very excited about. But we I think it was the last stream or maybe the last developer roundtable when we talked about dungeons a little bit. We talked about how a classical model of kind of targets that you would be going after in a game like this, named NPCs, rare NPCs. We plan to employ a placeholder, rare spawn model, but then we also plan to employ a couple of other models as well, where NPCs that you might be going after will only spawn during certain events, will only spawn during certain times of day, might have a pretty robust like pathing, network where you're not really sure where they're going to show up. And so hunting for NPCs will be, something that you'll see more in Pantheon, where you're aware that something has a chance to be up and around, and you're actually, gathering clues. The perception system will come into play here as well. Faction will come into play as well in terms of like where you may be able to get certain information to, actually go and hunt for certain NPCs. Another interesting spawn mechanic we're going to have is I think we call it like morph spawning, where in a placeholder system you want to find the placeholder and kill it as quickly as you can, as consistently as you can, in hopes the rare will spawn. Whereas with a morph spawn, it's actually the opposite, that a placeholder needs to stay up long enough for it to actually morph into the thing that you're after. And so the way all this like ties into max level kind of, what do I do after I reach level 50, is to say that there's going to be a wide variety of content consumption, where it's not going to be immediately getting on this rote kind of clockwork, like, this time every week I'm going to this place to kill this thing. There's going to be a lot of activity involved in, finding the targets that you're looking for, and, getting the right resources and the right group and the right people together. And I'm really excited about that. Not to mention, this is where I can go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but like when you start adding in things like fractures and these kind of unnatural phenomenon that can occur in different places that completely change,
like in the dungeons,
not only the dynamics of the content and the encounter, but also what may spawn there. You're also hunting and searching for those events. We've got dispositions and traits that come into play that make things more or less challenging depending on your personal group makeup, and then can also affect the itemization of those areas. We've got the entire faction system at work, which is more than just a reputation system. It's integral to the ability to unlock certain merchants, to unlock certain access to different places. There's so much that is involved in not only reaching that max level, but as you said, Cohh, and it's one of my favorite ways to describe games like this done well, which is the opening more and more of the world up to you. as you progress and as you invest more and more time in your character, certainly post 50, post max level, more and more of the world will open up to you. Not even getting into special traversals, things that are designed to make, you know, moving and existing and inhabiting this world just more fun. Special ways of moving around, whether that's, you know, the climbing system we've talked about, the sprint mechanic we've put into play in the way that, you know, your sprint skill, getting that leveled up will make you run faster and farther, short duration glide mechanics, maybe even some, you know, increased jumping heights and lots of other cool things that are there to, again, just kind of really play onto that sense of I am developing my character in so many cool different ways. And this world that is so massive and immersive, I feel like I'm opening up more and more of it to me as time goes on.
That is a very exciting answer. Last tiny follow-up to that, by the way. Are there going to be mechanics in the end game that promote exploration of the entire world? Not just necessarily like going to, you know, the highest level areas and stuff like that. But like one thing, for instance, I love so much about EQ is sometimes the best items for a certain slot on a certain class dropped in a level 20 dungeon. Or like, you know, at the bottom of a city. Maybe you have to go down into the sewers and pick something up off the ground. Like, is the game going to be like very varied and encouraging even end game players to just kind of go everywhere?
That's what I'm expecting.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You said it so well, even just in the question. That's absolutely it. We are not, number one, we're not afraid to make things very, very easy to overlook. That's in a game like this, we're not shying away from things being very easy to overlook. So yeah, that tiny little golden ring at the bottom of that lake in that kind of, you know, obscure part of the zone, sure, that might lead to you know, one of the best you know, poison resistance.
Yeah, they said something like that in the dungeon experience.
And sure, you know, down the line, someone will figure that out and there'll be some guides put out there and whatnot. But the key is like saturation. We want so many things like that where it is just that one person's one fateful day where they stumble upon it and all of a sudden they've uncovered something very cool. But then going back to the Metroidvania point, one of the things from my childhood and one of the, you know, the Zeldas and the Metroids and the, you know, the Castlevanias in those games, one of the marks they left on me is that sense of you're earlier in the game and you see something or you're aware of something that you can't yet access. And I like to use like the Titan's Mitt from A Link to the Past, where there was just for some, I don't know what it was about my mind, but it was such an impactful item for me where all of these big massive boulders are all around the play space for so long that I can't get past. And then all of a sudden I now have the Titan's Mitt and I can lift these things up and now I can enter this whole new area that I've been seeing for a while. And that is really at the heart of the exploration and discovery aspect of Pantheon, where, yeah, you're level 10 and you're in a low level dungeon, but you see something really high up on a ledge and there's really no seeming, it's seemingly impossible to get to. It's like, how in the world would anyone ever get up there? Yet later when you're level 30, level 40, you've, you know, acquired an item or an ability that now all of a sudden it clicks like, oh my goodness, I want to go back and see what that is, because now I can actually, you know, grapple up to that, or I can, you know, charge up a jump and jump high enough to get up there kind of thing. I want to go and see what that is. And now all of a sudden you're level 50 and you're starting to think back to like, what are all the places that I could go back and now
you could actually go explore everything again,
yeah, because they're going to have like leveling zones. They might have a level 20 zone, but they'll also have like a level 40 zone right next to it that you'll probably pass to keep progressing.
And seeing the necromancers,
so you can come back to it
and just be like, that's amazing. And then seeing the guy kiting the sand giant and just like, oh, like, oh, dude, just incredible. That sounds like you were the right person for this job. Okay, back on track somewhat. All right, so we've got a question here from Balthazar 12. Great question. This is another thing I loved about EQ, because whenever you'd come across these, it really felt like something special. Will Pantheon use a guide? It's like a volunteer GM system and program like EverQuest used to.
You can expect that, yes. We actually have had some really inspiring, kind of passionate people on our team who were a part of the guide program in EQ and have a lot of passion to see something like that continue. So yes, you can expect it, and that's something we'll have, you know, more details about down the road.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's already been documented, and it's ready to go. Yep.
Fantastic. And yeah, and as Ben already said, the content security managers has a team for this, so we are good. My friends, this has been wildly entertaining and informative. I really appreciate both of your times. Thank you so much for giving us just a little more insight on this project, and just
They're
for
going to
both
have
of
a
you,
sprint
any
system
parting
too.
words or last things that you guys would like to say to the Pantheon community?
We're grateful for the community. We're here because of you. We're
I remember
grateful
right from the monk video.
to our pledgers, our investors. Every dollar goes directly into development, and you're making it happen. Thank you for wanting this. Thank you for supporting it, and can't wait to be there in the world with you. If anybody's interested in pledging, we appreciate it. All goes to development. PantheonMMO.com/pledge. Would love to have you join that way too.
Love being able to get the word out to a larger community. So thank you, Cohh, for letting us come on here and talk about Pantheon and spread the word a little bit. And can't wait to get you in game soon, where you can hopefully share even more of the game with as many people as we can. We couldn't be more excited. So thanks again.
Fantastic. Thank you both again. I think I speak for literally thousands and thousands of us when I say we cannot wait to just get lost in this world. And thank you both for everything you're doing. Please give our thanks to the team. And I think that wraps up this Pantheon event. So we'll be saying bye to you, gentlemen, until next time. And great to see all the success. Great to hear about the funding stuff, and can't wait to play. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, all.
Damn, I wanted more.
Well, friends, that.
Oh, it sounds good. It sounds really good. Let me go back to regular mode. Wow, that was pretty insightful. I think some of that we already knew, as well as like for the footage in the background, we had already seen quite a bit of that. But let me get some music up here. I want to pop into EverQuest 2 really quick. Some of the stuff that they were saying, or asking about rather, like Cohh was, I already expected that to be a thing. Like being able to find like, let's say, a ring at the bottom of a well or something like that. They mentioned something similar to that in one of their one of the articles that I read, or it was a video that I watched. But they said the example was like for a staff that has +5 mana. Just because you might find it in a, let's say, level 30 plus area doesn't mean that there won't be another area entirely that you could also get that same exact staff. So same thing with, like, even if you're at level 60 and you go down to a level 20 area, being able to find something that's like best in slot, that's probably still going to be a thing even past that point. So that part sounds really nice. I've actually been playing some EverQuest 2. I jumped into this Barsoon server. I saw that there were some people playing it, although I'm pretty late to it because I think this one came out like 2 months ago or so. But it's been pretty interesting. I wanted to kind of get back into that old school experience and kind of get a bigger idea of what we'll be seeing in a game like Pantheon, because I played some classic MMORPGs before, but I haven't really played any of them in a while. So I wanted to kind of get more of an updated experience on it. EverQuest 2, I was always kind of adamant about playing it because everybody had always said that EverQuest 1 was the best one, and I can kind of see where they're coming from there, because EverQuest 1, it does a lot of stuff really, really well as opposed to EverQuest 2. But when I tried to play it, EverQuest 1, this last time, which was on one of the progression servers, I think it was, I just could not get into it, and I did not know why. I think it was just because I like the old school experience, but me personally, I can only go back so far now. And I think that has something to do with it. Although the combat isn't, as far as EverQuest 2 goes, it's not that much better in comparison to EverQuest 1, but it does feel a little bit more up to date. So I think that's probably part of the reason why I'm playing this one as actively as I am right now. But I'm looking forward to Pantheon as a whole, though. I'm surprised that they're planning to actually live stream the pre-alpha, because judging from the actual alpha tracker, which I'll bring that up in a second, they've still got quite a ways to go for that game. So I don't know how fully fleshed out that's actually going to look, but it'll be an interesting experience for sure. Wait 1 sec. I want to bring up that alpha tracker. Yeah, I was hoping for some new gameplay footage or something like that too. I don't know why we didn't. Oh yeah, let me get music on. Hold on, before we do this. I don't know why they didn't have new footage to show. I was really hoping for that. Where is my music folder? Oh, there it is. Wait a second. Okay, cool. Okay, that's better. All right, so if we go into the latest producer letter, they show what they've been working on, and only like a handful of these are complete. The classes and combat portion, that's still in progress. So I think somebody asked about this earlier. I don't think they have all the classes fully developed yet. They're still working on, yeah, it's just in pre-alpha currently. So in September, they're gonna open up the pre-alpha again, it sounds like, and also allow CohhCarnage to stream it. So we'll get a better idea of what things look like then. But as far as the actual alpha goes, like getting to alpha, there's still a ways to go. Network overhaul still in progress, pets still on the to-do list, ability loadouts, gathering and crafting in progress, perception system, which, like I said, I think is going to be one of the biggest parts for them to finish. That's still in progress, because perception, that's going to be like if you're a keeper or fledgling keeper rather, you come across a Spriggan or you come across an NPC, you might notice something that somebody else might completely gloss over. So you might be walking down an alleyway and you might see a secret trapdoor to get into a dungeon that has something that's best in slot at the end. You might see something like that happen. So programming all of that stuff in is probably going to be a hell of a time, because that goes much deeper than just, hey, I noticed something different about the lore. It seems like it's going to be more of a thing where you can notice pathways for getting into new areas of a dungeon that aren't immediately available. You can go in, you can get secret quest lines like they mentioned. I think they call it storylines, or that was just part of it, but yeah, we should be able to see things like that too. And then you've got the faction system, climbing improvements, swimming, acclimation. They did complete the banks, which that's cool, but they've still got quite a ways to go. So I would say alpha is probably going to be at least a year plus away. But the pre-alpha, if that lasts more than a couple weeks, that'll be pretty good, because that'll at least last some people quite a while. What was the quest that I was doing here? Hold on. This one is, mining barrel. Okay. But one thing I did notice about like EverQuest, for example, that also did make me think during the stream, EverQuest 2 that is, oh shit, hold on, there's 3 of them, is that in this game, when you kill these enemies, you'll start to, as you kill more and more of them, you'll start to get lore items. And that made me think about how they mention that in Pantheon, you're also going to see that be a thing where you do a dungeon over and over, you kill a specific mob over and over, you'll learn more about the lore, but there's also probably going to be secret quest lines and stuff that go deeper in, that also get given to you. So it would be worth, like I was saying earlier, I don't imagine Pantheon being the type of game that would be a game where you'd want to rush to max level. You'd probably want to explore a lot about the world around you. You'd want to do dungeons over and over again, kill mobs over and over again, that sort of thing, because you'll earn things like that, more lore items, you'll earn probably extra rewards, and then you might, even get some stuff tied to perception tied in there too. I'll run out of mana. I don't know if there's a way to actually, I think this is one of those games where you don't actually get mana potions, like kind of like Lineage Classic when I played that one, because I know that we get food and drink that helps us restore those resources when we're not in combat, but when we're in combat, I haven't seen anything yet that allows you to restore it while you're in the middle of combat. At least not mana. Health, yeah. I might not have enough mana for this. Got the instant cast. I've been playing a Mystic because I wanted to play a healer this time around. I don't really play healers all that often in MMOs, but there's something about it that is really enjoyable whenever I do end up playing a healer, especially because I know that having that amount of responsibility to keep the group alive, I can normally handle it under pressure, but it's also nice to not be, you know, not have to blame the healer because I am the healer. So if anything goes wrong, I can just blame myself. I like that. I might actually die on this guy. Hold on. Oh, no, we're good. Let me use this. Okay, I got him. Let me summon some food and drink over here. A lot of bastards in this cave. Blame tank when you're healing. I probably will get blamed every now and again, but I'm at least I know that if I do my job and I do it really well, then they have all the time in the world to kill the boss or whatever. Like even if they're terrible DPS or a terrible tank, as long as I can, unless I get aggro, then I'm probably dead. But as long as I can keep them alive as long as possible, then I'll have a little bit of faith that they can finish off the boss, given enough time. The only thing I'd pray for is that the tank knows how to mitigate, because I feel like if the tank and the healer know what they're doing to a good enough degree, then the DPS, except in certain cases where they have like enrage timers and stuff like that, the DPS may not be as important. But you could also say the same about DPS. If you have really good DPS, then the tank and the healer might not even matter. But it goes both ways. Nope, don't want to do that. But I just like the idea of healing, like a lot. I like playing roles that aren't really played often, and it feels good to be useful in a group too. And also, since these games employ the support roles too, which I don't think I don't know if this one does as much. I think it might actually. I know it has healers, but it has like several different types of healers, and I think all of them do healing on a certain level, but I don't think there's any that don't do healing, if I remember right. Which healer am I looking at? For Pantheon, I'm thinking Shaman. I was thinking Cleric, really thinking Cleric, but then I thought to myself, there's probably a lot of people that want to play a Cleric, and I feel like if there's multiple types of the same healer, then they'd probably go for a different healer instead. Unless it's a case where like one expansion, Clerics are just obnoxiously powerful and way better than the other healers, then maybe they'd have multiples, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of, because Cleric is like a popular in D&D and everything like that. I feel like it's a more popular choice for people when it comes to the healing side of things. So I was thinking about Cleric initially, but I'm kind of going more on the Shaman side. I actually I really like playing a Shaman in World of Warcraft and some of its expansions. I didn't play through Shadowlands or Battle for Azeroth, but back when I was getting ready for Legion, and I played that expansion. I played in Warlords of Draenor. I played a Shaman from like 1 to 100 or whatever the max was at the time, and it was really enjoyable. I loved it. Actually, I should have stuck with a Shaman in Legion. The only reason I didn't was because the guild that I had at the time, they wanted a Mistweaver Monk because we were also gonna do some PvP. So I was like, okay, I could boost up a Mistweaver Monk even though I have this Shaman leveled from level 1 and ready to go. I could, I guess, do a Mistweaver Monk, and I did it, and it was probably the worst decision I had made in WoW, because I think I quit halfway through Legion. I probably would have kept playing more if I had stuck with that Shaman, especially because when we got to the rating, this guild, I remember it was It was such a mess. So we had a guild leader that I met in Albion online years ago, and a lot of the guild members were randoms that had joined when we had started recruiting in Legion. So a lot of us were like unprepared, and we didn't really have great synergy. So we wiped. I remember in the Emerald Nightmare, the first raid that came out in Legion, we wiped like 27 times alone on one of the mid bosses, and then when we got to Xavius at the end, I think his name was, we wiped about 45 times or something like that. It was such a nightmare. But the main reason for it too, me as a Mistweaver monk, my mana burnt like crazy. It was crazy fast how fast you chunk through mana as a Mistweaver monk while healing. We're not really great for, like, that's why they're good for PvP. They got a lot of mobility, and you know, they can add a lot of utility to the team, but their mana goes down really quick, or at least it did back then. So it was just me and this holy paladin, I think it was, that were healing an entire raid. And this paladin pissed me off because he refused to respec his talents to get his holy aura, I think it was. It was basically this like passive healing. This basically, it allowed him to AoE heal people over time, but it was a passive thing because this guy was focusing only on the tank and himself and like maybe one other person, on just healing them. And he said that he could not heal anybody else or try to heal anybody else in the raid. So it was just me trying to keep up like 7 people, or 7 or 8 people, while this guy just focused on himself in the tank mostly. So it was a nightmare. That was part of the reason we wiped so hard on the mid boss, was because he refused to even try to respec his talent trees. And then I finally, after like 15 more wipes, I finally convinced him just to try it, that holy aura, and we beat it the very next time. I was so mad. I didn't yell or anything, but it was so frustrating. And then at the last boss, even that didn't help us because it was just all over the place, a mess. But if I had played the shamans were amazing at AoE healing. I love the crap out of those totems, and I was so good at using those, cycling between them and my chain healing and my healing main. It was so fun. So for Wrath of the Lich King Classic, that's probably the only, because I told myself I was gonna play vanilla WoW, but I lasted like maybe a week and a half, and then I got bored because it definitely wasn't the same experience that we had in 2003. Oh shit, I'm just running off. Let me go back into the water. Hold on. And then TBC Classic, I didn't even jump on. I think there was something else going on at the time. But Wrath of the Lich King, for me at least, is different. That's probably the only expansion that I would actually play from start to finish in a classic version, because I used to play on World of Warcraft private servers, and the only expansion that I played them on was Wrath. And I loved Wrath. Was amazing. I was a blood elf death knight, and the PvP experiences in that game were amazing. I don't know how a shaman is in that game, but I'd probably play it. Have a good night, Pico. I don't know about karaoke night. I don't know about that one. But I'm probably just going to do this a little bit more. I got to get back working a little bit here, though. But yeah, that was a pretty good stream as far as Pantheon goes. I'm excited to see more. I still think, yeah, the alpha, even though they said that there's going to be tools that help them speed up the process, I still feel like it's going to be a ways away. Although the new hires, that's promising. The fact that they're going to have new people working with them might help speed things up a bit. But I'd be surprised if they finished. I mean, we still got months in the year left. So if they, like, let's say, complete 5 more things on that alpha project progress list in the next 3 months, then that would probably, you know, then at that point we might see alpha, pre-alpha, or not pre-alpha, but actual alpha in like Q3 of next year. But I wouldn't expect to see it before then. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna get going, but I'll probably be back soon with another stream. We'll figure out something to do, whether it's Gloria Victis, because I still am playing that, or something else. We'll see, or even this, for example. But I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.